going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Viall Files Going Deeper edition. I'm your host, Nick, joined by Allie in studio. Amanda, unfortunately, has the COVID for the very first time. It was a good run, Amanda. A good run. Good for you.
Fallen soldier.
Seemed to be doing well. She's, hanging in there. So we appreciate her participating from the safety and comfort of her home.
Yes.
We got a great episode for you. My friend Chloe Bale is with us. Chloe's a friend I've known for a long time. She's from London, and so we figured we'd have a Brit on here to give us their perspective of the press and what that is like. We also have Michelle Tauber with us, who's the People magazine royal expert. She's very read in on all things royal. And I definitely got to say, episode 4, 5, and 6 made me really empathize with Harry and Meghan a lot more than episodes 1, 2, and 3 did.
Yeah. There's a shift in tone, I feel like.
Yeah, they came across way more likable, I think, in these last 3 episodes. I wonder if that was like Netflix's decision. I feel like it has to be, because I think it was so different in terms of their likability in the second half.
There's a little part of me that thought maybe they were trying to lay a trap. So by not having the really explosive stuff in the second release, they were like, oh, and we know the media is going to cover this first 3 episodes just the way that we're about to criticize them for in the next 4.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that was more Netflix being good storytellers. I don't feel like Harry and Meghan were in it for the criticism that way. And again, I still... And we'll get into it in the episode in terms of the things I don't get, but I will say they came across far more likable. But we get into it. Chloe is great. Michelle's great. We have a lot to discuss. Amazing texting office hour. Also, don't forget that next week, we only have 2 episodes. We have an Ask Nick, and we have our update special. It's a great update special. You won't want to miss it. So in that kind of... dreary, no man's land week of the year.
Confusion, fog.
Maybe you're working, maybe you're not. Certainly family is going to get on your nerves. We're here to help.
Just go hide away and listen to a good
and listen
episode.
to us. Yeah. Anything else we need to cover too? We got a lot to get into in this episode.
Yeah, let's dive right in.
Let's get into the episode. All right. Chloe, welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Cold, actually.
Yeah. Well,
it's cold in LA.
It is.
I didn't move here
cold.
for this weather.
Yeah. It was very cold.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly.
Took a nice hot tub last night.
Ooh, sexy time hot tub?
Well,
Cozy time hot tub.
No, definitely sexy time hot tub. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, the lack of an answer is giving us one.
For sure. I'm so happy to have you here. I haven't seen you in a while. We used to spend all this time together.
All the time.
And then we just, as life happens, we haven't seen. And it was because of Harry and Meghan, they brought you and I back together. Look at us. We talked about this last week on the show. We didn't have any Brits in the room to discuss, and now we have you to help us break down episode 4 and 5 and 6, and then we have Michelle Tauber, the People magazine's royal correspondent,
senior editor at People, has been covering the royals for over 20 years, and is going to be our resource.
So we'll talk with Michelle in a bit here. We'll ask her some questions, and then we'll all break it down. As we know, Amanda's homesick with the vid.
It finally got me.
This is
2
the first
years
time.
later.
Is this your first time getting?
Yeah,
really?
And I'd felt a little bit special, honestly.
Huh?
That happened to me too.
This is shocking that this is the first time you got it.
This is shocking, you say?
Yeah. Because you're an adventurous person. You're out there.
I've got an amazing immune system.
Yeah. You're
out there.
You're doing shit. Yeah.
No, I'm very much someone who's like, eat a bit of dirt. It's good for you. Yeah. So I think I've been vindicated in that only now has COVID taken me down.
And then we also have Sexy Sid here with us.
Oh, yeah. He's actually put his face down inside my arm. It's way too early for him.
Can we get a shot of that sexy face? No?
Well,
how old is Sid?
He'll wake up at some point. He's 22 now.
He's 22.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a fate. But we think he's 22. He's a rescue. I got him when he was roughly 10. They scan the teeth and say we think he's 10.
So that's
and
how
that was 12 years ago.
Teeth?
Yeah. That's how they figure out the age. And now he has 0 teeth. So there's no way.
There's no
Really confirming it
no
now.
way to
Nothing to
know.
scan.
No.
22 seems old for a dog.
No, it is. It is. And the Guinness Book of World Records right now, the oldest dog, I believe, is 21 and a half and lives here in Los Angeles and is a Chihuahua. And so obviously Sid should be there, but we don't have the proof. We don't have a birth certificate.
Could Sid possibly be the oldest dog in the world?
He could possibly be the oldest living dog in the world. Do you know how old the oldest dog actually ever was that lived?
No.
29. In Australia.
Was it also
It was an
chimp?
Australian Shepherd dog. It was 29
did I
years
say
old.
chimp?
Did you say chimp?
You definitely did.
My take's going to be great today.
I'm like, how do we find, because we just need the proof.
Yeah.
So if we know where he was rescued, can we start a campaign? Like if you
turn
Sid in, because I kind of want to do the same thing
big
for
show.
Kiki. Like
Yeah.
if anyone knows
Hold
a
him up
dog
like a
who was
milk
named
carton.
Shaqui in Chicago, like let me know. Like we need to find their original owners.
Unfortunately, he was found walking on the freeway.
Oh,
Can you imagine this tiny little 4-pound thing walking on the freeway? And he was actually rescued by he was taken to a shelter, which was unfortunately a high kill shelter. And then this wonderful company called Molly's Mutts and Meows of Beverly Hills rescued him from that. And then I saw him on their website and I just fell in love with him.
Yeah.
Straight away. They actually the doctors suggested maybe I choose another dog because he'd had a lot of abuse and was very old and had a lot of health problems. But I fell in love with him and it was the best thing I ever did.
Sexy Sid.
Sexy Sid.
Yeah, he's a chill dog. We've watched a lot of movies together.
Yes, you have.
I'm obsessed with Sid.
Chloe, tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
Okay, so I'm from Kent, Margate to be specific, calling out to the Margate posse. And then I moved to London when I was 16, spent a lot of my life there. And then I moved here 12 years ago. I won't say how old I was then.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And this has been my home for 12 years now. But
I've been dying to find a reason to have you on, and we've talked a few times. You're a person amongst town. I don't know how to describe it. You know people.
That doesn't sound good.
That sounds like a woman of the night.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit like when you were saying that she's out there and you're not surprised she hasn't had COVID.
You're tapped in. You know everybody.
Sure. By the way, I only just had COVID as well. I lasted the whole time without getting it.
That's also amazing to me.
I know, because I really am out there.
You're so out there.
You're a social
You're a woman of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how you and I met, wasn't it? We met at a private membership club through a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
And,
are you guys Harry and Meghan at Soho House?
Oh my God.
Maybe.
So Harry and Meghan.
But and I think you'll have some interesting perspectives on this whole situation, and I'm happy to
we'll find out.
Chat with you about it. I think our royal expert is here, so let's bring on Michelle. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. To start off, can we just let the people know a little bit about your background as it relates to being a royal expert, what that looks like? How did you get into it? Bring us up to speed on your, I guess, credentials.
Sure. I have to laugh too, because in the first part of the Netflix series, do you remember that Prince Harry says, so-called royal experts, like major air quotes.
You were the so-called?
Okay. I felt very called out. I did. But yeah, so I've been covering the royal family for People for 22 years.
Okay.
People magazine was effectively my first job out of college, and I was writing about the royals from the get-go. So I've been doing it a long time. I covered Prince Harry's Invictus Games in The Hague in the Netherlands this past spring. It was really a great experience. I was just in Boston for Prince William's Earthshot Prize with Princess Kate. So yeah, I've been doing this a while, and I've had a pretty good front row seat to much of the drama of the past few decades with this family.
Yeah, and there seems to have been a lot of drama, and there certainly seems to be a ton of drama now. Because that, to me, that's what this has kind of been all about. Just like I mean, it just feels like we have the pleasure from an entertainment standpoint of watching this kind of family feud unfold across like all forms of media. I guess for you, I'm curious, just What's your thought on the Netflix documentary, and what was your thought going in, just from your standpoint? Do you try to have, being the expert, in an unbiased opinion, or do you find yourself, critiquing certain things, or where do you stand on this whole mess?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's true, in terms of the drama, I mean, the best illustration of that, of course, is The Crown, right? Which we literally consume as entertainment about these real people, their real lives. But it is played out in such a sort of, made like on this global stage. And certainly now this latest entry with Meghan and Harry, going into the docuseries, I do try to keep an open mind, of course, as a journalist. I sort of sat there slack-jawed for the first volume just because there were so many blanks being filled in that a year or two ago at People, we would have given anything to know, like, what was that? How did they actually meet? What was that first date like? Let alone see like a blurry selfie taken from that first date. We knew about the Botswana like romantic getaway, but photos from that, it was such a big sort of revelation to me to see those things actually on screen. And then some of it, of course, we knew, and this was building on, I mean, we knew that this was building on what they told Oprah, right? And there wasn't actually a ton new, as I think you guys pointed out in last week's episode of the podcast, that there wasn't a lot new that hadn't been explored on Oprah. So that was something that I thought was a little disappointing in terms of telling their story, filling in some of the blanks in that way that I felt like we didn't quite get.
Yeah. A lot has been made, like, in terms of, I feel like a lot of this documentary was talking about the treatment of Meghan and Harry versus some of the royal families, and specifically like the treatment of Meghan versus Kate and other people. How do you see it in terms of, as someone like myself who historically hasn't been paying a lot of attention to the royals? I've watched like one season of The Crown, so I can't really, speak to how other people in the royal family have been treated. Obviously, Meghan and Harry have their perspective. How do you see it as someone who's been following this family for a long time, and how people, like Princess Diana, obviously she dealt with a lot of harassment and from the paparazzi and the press, and sadly that led to her death. But yeah, how do you see the treatment of Meghan versus the treatment of other royals in the family?
Yeah. So Diana really was in a league of her own in terms of her level of fame, and also, as you say, in terms of how she was treated and really abused by the press. And I do think it's worth noting that because of her unbelievably tragic death, which did have a clear line to that press treatment, a lot changed, right? So when you see in that docuseries Diana walking through the airport, holding up the tennis racket in front of her face, being absolutely hounded, people getting on the elevator with her, paparazzis getting on the elevator with her. In the footage, a lot of people weren't familiar with that footage of her on the slopes with the kids, putting up her hand in front of the camera saying, "Please leave us alone." That changed after her death, and it's absolutely sort of inconceivable that that's what it took to change that, but it is, sadly. So I wouldn't say that either Meghan or Kate were subject to that level of hounding. With Kate, the distinction I would draw as someone who's watched this family is that she came in really as a blank slate. When she entered the spotlight, it was as William's girlfriend. So there were no preconceived ideas and nothing really out there about her. Talk about scrounging. I think for years we had one photo, we still do, one photo of her graduation from St. Andrews, and that's it. With Meghan, she was famous already, right? So a lot of people had watched Suits, even people who hadn't, then suddenly they're seeing, oh, right, she was one of the Deal or No Deal, suitcase girls. She was divorced. There were photos of her first wedding. So I think, right off the bat, there was a difference in terms of people coming in with they knew this woman or they didn't, versus Kate, they really didn't. And that set up certainly, I think, a different playing field from the get-go.
I think when you were saying about after Princess Diana, things changed.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true in the UK. I think that's why this documentary actually is important. That's the one thing that I think that should come from this documentary, is that the British press are cruel and they hound people and they pummel them until they say things like, I didn't know if I wanted to be alive anymore, like Meghan said. And I know, like Princess Diana, it was really, really, really insane. But maybe it would have carried on being that way if Meghan had stayed here. And for that reason, I'm really glad they left as well. Here in LA, obviously there's a lot of press, there's a lot of paparazzis, but it's nothing compared to in the UK. I have friends who've suffered. I lost a friend because of the effects of the press in the UK. And I think it's so important that just, even if that's all that comes out of this documentary alone, is that it does have to change. And I remember watching the funeral of Princess Diana, when it all happened, and thinking, oh, well, at least something good will come out of it. And I really don't think it has.
But you think it's fairly consistent across the board, just in general, just the UK press?
Absolutely. Look, what they've done to Meghan, I think, is absolutely disgusting, and it's heartbreaking, and it's cruel. And they're actually doubling down now after the documentary. That's what's so sad. They don't even, consider what they've done, or maybe wanting to apologize in some way. They're doubling down on it and saying, here, there you go. That's why we were mean to you. Look, because you're still pushing yourself out there. You're still this pushy princess, you know? And yeah, it really breaks my heart. Like I said, I've lost close friends because of this, because of the press hounding in the UK.
Yeah, that's crazy. When it comes to choosing a wireless plan, you're forced to compromise. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could get reliable service without a contract and save money? Introducing Total by Verizon, a new no-contract, no-credit check carrier for you and your family, with plans starting at just $30 per month on America's most reliable 5G network. Sacrifice nothing, experience everything. Total by Verizon is available at totalbyverizon.com and at retailers nationwide. Based on first-place rankings and Root Metrics first half 2022 5G assessments of 125 metros. Experiences vary, not an endorsement. Whitney Houston was such an amazing, amazing talent, and it was such a joy to listen to her music and watch her movies growing up. I was a fan of Whitney Houston, but it was also just really tragic to see how drugs and all the pressures that she faced kind of stole her from this world. And there's just so much to the story that I think is left unsaid, and so much that people don't know. Well, thank God for Wondery's Even the Rich, best known for giving you the kind of behind the scenes of some of the world's elites and the greatest family dynasties to the pop culture superstars. And they are covering Whitney Houston this time. It's really fascinating how they talk about her rise to stardom, how she felt trapped between two worlds, and how, drugs became her only outlet. But and then soon addiction took its course. Anyway, there's so much to the story. It's a fascinating story as much as it is tragic. If you love what Even the Rich is doing, you're going to want to hear the Whitney Houston story. And if you are a Whitney Houston fan, trust me, you're going to want to listen to this. Follow Even the Rich wherever you get your podcast. You can listen ad-free on Amazon Music or Wondery Plus. Even the Rich chronicles Whitney's rise to pop prominence and her infamous fall from grace, revealing the lesser-known stories behind Whitney's demise. It was such a fascinating episode. I loved it. You're going to love it. Make sure to check it out. Follow Even the Rich wherever you get your podcast. You can listen ad-free on Amazon Music or the Wondery app.
Yeah, no, I mean, we may be talking about slightly different things. What I'm referring to in terms of changes, there were some new genuine boundaries drawn up and set after Diana's death, including, for example, the ski slope. Like, we don't run photos of royal children anymore unless they are photos where the family has released them themselves or the family is attending a public event. There is no market anymore for hounding the Wales children or the Sussex children, because no one will buy them. Certainly no one reputable, and even the UK tabs pretty much abide by that. So certainly not enough changed, but some things did. And I think to your point, I mean, yeah, we see just this past, I'm sure you guys have seen this latest thing with the Top Gear host, this sort of awfulness coming out of the UK, Jeremy Clarkson, where, as if to prove everything Meghan and Harry said in the docuseries, he writes this completely vile Sun piece saying, I hate Meghan with every cell of my being and wish to see her paraded through the streets like that Game of Thrones scene, you know, with shouting shame and throwing extra, just awful, horrible things that is truly like exactly what they were talking about in the docuseries, fueling that kind of hate and vitriol.
Same with Piers Morgan too. I think he did something equally as revolting.
He seems to be like,
he's so anti her. But doesn't it seem like it's some personal slight because he said they were friends?
Yeah,
at some point.
He mentioned,
so they were,
and then she got too big for her boots once she became
right. It does feel they had a meeting in London at some point when she was out there well before Harry, and it does feel like, oh, you know, she ghosted him, and he's had an axe to grind ever since. And you remember there were quite a few complaints about him after the Oprah interview, like thousands of people filed complaints. He was ultimately let off the hook, but he said that he didn't believe Meghan ever had experienced thoughts of self-harm, felt suicidal, and was, you know, taken to task as he should be for that. But as you say, there's really no remorse, and a lot of people are pointing out that both Jeremy and Piers, these two guys who've said really horrible things, they were both invited to a lunch at which a holiday lunch that Camilla, the Queen Consort, recently attended as well. And so to have them all rubbing elbows certainly is not a great look, to say the least.
Yeah. So that's my other question too. A lot of the documentary talked about just the relationship the royals have with the press, and you know, Harry and Meghan are under this kind of impression, or strongly believe, and it seems very believable, especially with some of the evidence they talked about, like his former assistant who now works, I think, for William and things like that. Like, how much in cahoots and how much of a role do you think William is playing in this perpetuation of these stories about his brother and his wife? Or is he just more kind of idly, you know, not doing anything about it? Like, how do you see, you know, William's role, or William and Kate's role in kind of these stories? Because it seems like Harry and Meghan like have the expectation of like, you're my brother, like why aren't you stepping up and protecting us?
But even beyond that, Harry even mentioned, you know, we watched what happened in our father's press office. We wouldn't swap out stories. We wouldn't throw each other under the bus. So maybe you can touch on that as well. Was William doing that? Was he swapping out things from his office with things about Meghan?
Yeah. And I mean, you saw that at the end of the doc, the whole thing ends with that legal pushback, the back and forth between Jason Nuff, the aide to William, and then the Sussexes, and basically both saying the other one is being untruthful. And it is really hard. There's a certain, like, the whole thing has a sort of Rashomon-like quality, you know, like it's really hard to know, but when everyone's telling their version of events. I thought of the entire 6 hours docuseries, the most truthful, honest moment in the series was when you see Meghan saying to Harry after, you know, they're feeling like that story was planted by William's office, the pushback about the bullying, and she says to Harry, "He's your brother. He's your like so exasperated. Like, I'm not going to say anything else, but he's your brother." And I think that, you know, that was where really the curtain got pulled back the most, because certainly, as you say, Nick, you know, like Harry would have been witness to how these offices work, you know, internally for his entire life. And at the same time, yes, I think they were expecting him to, you know, to protect them in a way they felt that he really had no interest in. Whether he was actively working against them, I think it's really hard unless you're hearing what the other side is saying from William and Kate, and you're not.
I know we don't want to speak, obviously, for William and Kate, but all we can do is guess. Like, what is your guess? If you had to guess, like, what's their point of view in this situation? What do you think it would be?
So it's hard for me to imagine William explicitly saying to an aide, like, plant this story, or, you know, do this, that underhanded thing. I could see where, however, like this institution, and I think the docuseries does a good job of it, like the institution has had a sort of, you know, a relationship with the press going back, you know, at least 100 years. And I could see where aides would feel deputized, without it being like a direct order, aides would feel deputized to manage the situation. And I think that, like, to answer the question about the offices working against each other, I think it is true that for a long time they at least appeared to all sort of have each other's backs. The Charles's office, William and Harry's office. And when the fracture happened, where William and Kate are represented by one office and Meghan and Harry another, I think it is very believable that created a lot of antagonism between these two couples.
When I was watching this, especially the last 4 episodes, I thought to myself, because they were talking a lot about jealousy, and the potential of jealousy. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, are we just watching like a modern day Shakespearean play? Because I just feel like the story of, the presumed heir to the throne and then the younger brother is like it's a very common tale that's been played out over all these movies and plays. And this is just like a modern day version of it, right?
It's like watching Succession.
Yeah. And in modern day, we like our reality TV shows more than we like, and so I just feel like we're just watching a reality TV show on this. What role is this kind of dynamic playing where, like, when I hear Harry's point of view, like, I totally empathize. I see it. I'm like, yeah, this is fucked up. If I were in Harry's shoes, I'd feel this way.
Yep.
But what does like this idea that if Harry were William, if he were the firstborn, I just kind of wonder how this all would play out.
Very, very different.
Very different, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, they talked about that, didn't they, in the documentary? And by you saying about it being a Shakespearean drama, they even play into that by the fact that they call each other the principals, which is a very theatrical term. That your principal, your lead actor.
Yeah.
I noticed they use a lot of theatrical terminology.
Yeah. Everyone on my staff was writing it out in our stories, principal, PLE. And I was like, no, they're using this weird term. And it's a great point that it's a theatrical term to refer to each other as, lead players, PAL, at the end. But, to your point, Nick, like, listen, the title of Harry's upcoming memoir is Spare. And when I first took this role,
they say like the heir and the spare.
Okay.
Yeah, the heir and the spare. And when I first took this role, one of the first things I did was I said to my team, like, oh my God, we can't call it, like, I can't believe for this long we've actually been using that term, the heir and the spare, just so casually. When do we call a human being a spare?
Right.
When they're in line for the throne and need a backup.
Is that a formal term, though, when it comes?
No.
It's not.
Everybody says it.
Yeah.
It's so widely accepted that no one even blinked at it, right? It was just common knowledge that Harry was the spare. And in fact, Diana even used it at one point.
So, like, in case he dies, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's a spare.
The backup.
Wow. Okay, wow.
So if you're raised, and again, like, it's no coincidence, of course, that's the title of his memoir. If you're raised your entire life that you're the backup, whether implicitly or explicitly, like, that's your understanding of your role, then that's going to create like some major dynamic, like some major inferiority issues and challenges within that sibling dynamic that almost are on a Shakespearean level that I think Americans struggle with. Like, I think it's interesting, to when you ask, like, how, like, sometimes Americans will be like, how important is the succession really? And of course, we're both going, like, so important. But to Americans, like, oh, they're all royals though, right? They're all like princes and princesses, dukes and duchesses. What's the difference really? But to this family, it's everything. It matters.
Yeah. Watching it, it's kind of like, well, I'm just hearing that for me, just having that realization just kind of cemented that I'm just seeing one person's point of view,
Yeah. Right. Well, and you would think that being the spare, it should allow you some freedoms. And because you're not the one that's next in line and you're not the one that has to follow all of the protocols to the T, you'd think like, well, at least I can have a bit of a normal life. But that's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
What he couldn't have. And that's why he is where he is now.
Not so much. Yeah. It's interesting. Do we think, do we expect King Charles now to do, how do you think he feels about this dynamic? They almost kind of imply that, he's just as messy as the rest of them. How do you see this? Like, and also, do they like it? Like, some people are out there saying, hey, listen, at the end of the day, everyone's talking about him, and I just feel like there's power in, they hate
They
this.
don't like it.
Right. I'm with you on that one.
This This family is the never complain, never explain mantra set by the Queen. And they hate it. They hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. The royals hate it. And they're not supposed to, as you probably know, the Queen's entire origin story, why she was on the throne at all, is because her uncle abdicated, right, for love. And that really messed things up for this family. And she felt that kind of like leading with one's heart and airing the dirty laundry in the way that all that scandal was pretty unforgivable. Not necessarily leading with one's heart, but like letting that family drama take the stage was something that she worked really hard to prevent. And as you know, like really failed at ultimately with her 4 children. On the other hand, she herself never once spoke about any of that, never once except in a couple very, scripted, carefully worded statements, but kept all that so close to the vest. As far as the role Charles has, we hear from a lot of people, a lot of sources sort of within this family and close to this family, like he just needs to knock their 2 heads together. And until that happens, these 2 brothers, nothing will ever be repaired. But when I hear that, I think, does that work in any family? Like since when does any father, mother, whatever, really have the power to fix their kids' relationships? Let alone, like we were just talking about, relationships with this many levels of like fraught, weight behind them.
Because like Harry's always going to think that like Charles is taking William's side, is my guess.
Yeah,
especially if he's critiquing any of Harry's behavior.
Now Charles is in the role that the Queen was in, right? He's the head of the family and the head of the institution. And these things really are often in conflict. So it's a catch-22.
There hasn't been an official statement, right, from the royal family about the documentary?
The only statement is they're not making a statement.
Right.
Do you think reconciliation is even possible at this point? Because it sure felt like Harry and Meghan they're doubling and tripling down.
They close the door. You hear them say, like at the end of the doc, like you can't move on until you close the first the last chapter. And of course, with that book coming, that means there's still more that's coming in the first week of January. There's going to be even more, a lot of speculation that there'll be quite a bit about Harry's early childhood relationship with Charles. You did see in the doc, they were very careful. There's almost no criticism of Charles. And in fact, Meghan even calls him charming when, he walked her down the aisle. So I don't think they've closed the door to that relationship. I do think the heart of all of this conflict is really this ongoing massive estrangement between the 2 brothers. And I think I would never say never about a reconciliation, but as far as like, will the wives ever come together? Will this family ever come together? It's all going to have to come from these 2 brothers. There will be no détente until they work things out. And right now that seems a really, really far ways off.
For the people who are out there who think this drama is coming more from Meghan and the Kates, and almost like, because I've heard that out there, it's almost like the brothers are
being torn apart by their wives.
Torn about by their wives' feud with each other, and Meghan's the one who's pulling Harry away and planting seeds of doubt, and Kate's doing whatever she's doing, maybe the same thing to William. Do you think that's a little far-fetched, or what do you have to say about that kind of all those kind of theories that are flown out there?
Yeah, I do think it's a lot of misogyny wrapped up in that, like blaming the wives for the brothers' estrangement is unfair. I think I get why people say, listen, it's in the public perception at least. Until Meghan came on the scene, the brothers appeared very close. And then for a while, the brothers and Kate appeared very close. The 3 of them, Harry jokingly said, like, I'm third wheeling it. And they seem to have a really nice relationship. I think there's a lot of subtext people missed previously is what we've been talking about, which is that, Harry, and he says this in the docuseries, Harry had this sort of simmering like fire within that was like, why do I need to play this role of backup? Isn't there more for me out there? And to that point too, like if I am the spare, I should be able to blaze my own trail, go my own way. And so I think it is unfair to say, and so when Meghan came, she made a huge mess and destroyed the brothers' relationship. And that never happened when Kate was on the scene. But I think that there is a lot of truth to the fact that Harry had this yearning and also this feeling of I'm not good enough within this family. And as we know, like in any family, that sets things up for a lot of conflict.
Yeah, it almost seems like Harry played his role and did the things that people thought he was responsible to do. And yeah, I think it's far-fetched and crazy to think that like Meghan came in and was got in his head and
puppeteering.
Yeah, puppeteering.
But people think that. Like, I spoke to friends and family in the last couple of days that have watched it, and they're saying, "Oh, poor Harry, he's so controlled by Meghan." I don't see that at all.
Yeah, if anything, it's like he was always this was always inside him. Like he seems to clearly be his mother's son, so to speak.
I feel like he's driven by what happened with his mom, and he feels like by saving Meghan, standing up for Meghan, he can save his mom.
Yeah, and if anything, maybe Meghan just gave him the confidence to kind of, let that voice that's always been inside him of wanting to do his own thing and his independence. And it was probably Meghan, if anything, who said it's okay to feel that way and maybe supported him and so maybe she's playing a role for sure. I mean, they're partners now and married. And so obviously they're both playing a role in each other's decisions. But yeah, I don't. The idea that she planted, very much so. Right? Yeah, the idea that she planted the seed and completely changed Harry's mentality and focus, that doesn't seem to add up at all.
But I think you're right, Michelle. Like over time, it was probably building. Like he had this specific role to play in the same way William did. And he facilitated a lot of, I feel like, William and Kate's successes. Like to the point where once Diana passed, they got to go through her stuff and each boy got to pick what he wanted. And Harry picked the sapphire engagement ring and then gave it to William because he said, Kate needs this. Like, she's going to be queen. I understand. Here, let me give it back. Like, he's continued to make sacrifices and make them like the ideal couple while he sat on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely instrumental in the popularity of that generation of royals, right? When he's the one who was really out there talking about mental health. His Invictus Games were arguably one of the most successful royal ventures that they've had in the modern era. He's so good at connecting with people. I do think Meghan's Americanness cannot be discounted in this equation. And like Nick, to your point, like, coming in and being like, it's okay to talk about our feelings. That's something you can imagine an American sort of being a disruptor to the stiff upper lip royal family. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I think a lot was lost in the royal family's sort of inability to recognize that and say, like, this isn't how we do things, but maybe we can try some of this. And instead it was like the doubling down of like, this is how we do things. This is how it's done. And I think it's a shame there couldn't have sort of been a better middle ground reach there. I also do want to circle back to this trauma, in the trauma that informs so much of Harry's life and worldview. And it cannot be stressed enough that, yes, he says it multiple times in the documentary. He said it to me in interviews, like, I am my mother's son. And I think that feeling is absolutely true, that I must protect my wife because I wasn't able to protect my mother, is a huge part of why they left.
Yeah.
And it could have been such a beautiful thing for the UK to embrace.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they've lost that opportunity. They're seen as an archaic institution that's exclusive, and this could have changed that. And they let that opportunity go, both when it comes to mental health, when it comes to the press, when it comes to race, everything. And they dropped the ball. Like, this could have been such an amazing good change. Yeah, I thought it's quite depressing.
It was kind of interesting when they were talking about the, what do they call it? The
Commonwealth?
The Commonwealth, yeah. And just who makes up the Commonwealth and the role Meghan could have played and how much of an impact. And that really kind of hit home.
Absolutely. And how Barbados has already said peace. We'll see you. Jamaica might be next.
And how much do you think the institution was resistant to having Meghan be such a prominent figure in the family and play such a role. Like if they, here they have this option. Here we have Meghan, we have Harry, and the people of the Commonwealth a lot of the people of the Commonwealth really are embracing Meghan in such a kind of huge way. Is that something that the institution of the family or William or Kate would be like, hey, we want you to be, important, but like, I don't know if we want you to be that important. Do you think that played a significant role in some of the family drama?
I would say, I think that rather than like, we want to keep you down so you don't overshadow us in that way, it would have been more that they didn't appreciate or recognize what they had. So I think, again, so much was lost. When Meghan and Harry went to South Africa and Meghan told a group of young girls, I am you and you are me, I thought it was one of the most powerful moments we've seen from this family in many, many years, because no one else could say that. And then we know that when William and Kate did their Caribbean tour, it was roundly criticized for feeling out of touch, for the fact that there was all this like colonial iconography that they seemed to not realize that they're recreating, like, let's say when the Queen and Philip were here, but that was a bad look then, and doing it now is an even worse look. So I think it wasn't so much like we need to keep you in the corner. It was more like we should recognize this is an amazing opportunity for our family to reflect the way the world looks today, to show inclusion, to show, how much we've grown and we're evolving and all of that. And even, when we first saw, when the world saw, but that photo of Archie's christening and it's the Queen, Prince Philip, and Meghan's mom, Doria, a Black American woman, and then Meghan and Harry. I thought, seeing that photo, well, this is the greatest royal photo of the modern era.
Yeah, and the gospel choir at the wedding,
right? Something new.
It was really beautiful. Yeah,
and that's gone now.
It's crazy stuff.
I just have one last question, which is thinking about William and Kate, who seem to be pretty depicted in this documentary as very protected and polished members of the royal family. Have there been any instances of scandals or things that the media has picked up or criticized either of them for?
So certainly not in the same way that we've seen with Meghan and Harry. There have been here and there. They do seem to get pretty, like those little fires seem to get extinguished pretty quickly. And I think, again, watching the docuseries, you see where they were able to burn much wider and bigger than they ever have with William and Kate. The flip side of that is William and Kate are locked down in terms of they're a fortress, right? It's almost like nothing gets in or out with that couple. They don't do interviews in this way, not at all, not even close. I don't know that we ever will see them speaking about their marriage, or I was thinking that it's impossible to imagine them showing their kids in their backyard, with the chicken coop, or all of those scenes, frolicking on the beach. We just, they're in a completely sort of different realm than this couple. And as a result, I think there's a really different level of what we hear about them. And it's almost nothing.
Yeah, I think they covered that in the documentary. So maybe there's been slightly controversial moments involving William and Kate, but we're never going to see them because they are protected by the machine. Whereas whereas Harry and Meghan are saying, where was our protection? Yeah. Didn't he say something like, we saw within 4 hours they were willing to lie for William, but in years they were never willing to tell the truth.
When they had that joint statement that Harry was never a part of.
Yeah.
And that's Harry's point of view. I mean, William, we haven't heard from William. I don't think William would say, I lied.
Interesting. Michelle, thank you so much for your time. This has been very insightful. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. This was fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have you back on in the future if the tea keeps spilling and we keep talking about it.
Well, we've got the memoir and the coronation coming up, so
lots to cover. All right. Happy holidays.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
All right. Take care. Interesting stuff. Yeah. I after watching 4, 5, and 6, I definitely had way more empathy for Harry and Meghan.
Right.
I thought it was really interesting. I assume I'm really curious after watching it. One, my first question was, how much control did Harry and Meghan have over how this was edited and
I think
and put out?
No, I think all the control. No, isn't that the whole point of why they did it?
I thought so, but I also heard stuff about there's certain things that like they didn't want Netflix to air or show, just because I thought it was really interesting that, there was definitely a turn in 4, 5, and 6. I feel like 1, 2, and 3, it was kind of, I don't know. I think it was just a very different kind of, it was a turn. I feel like that was more Netflix because it was from a storytelling standpoint, there was such there was like a build and this like a real more sympathetic edit. They came across way more likable, I think, in 4, 5, and 6 than they did in 1, 2, and 3.
And like, I think that a lot of the British press was saying it's a bit more like a reality show than a documentary.
Oh, it's 100%.
Which I think is what they were probably aiming for. Look, if the reason they made this was to show their side of the story, and when you do that, it's in the hope of maybe making more people like you, then you need to be as vulnerable and as open as possible. And I think where they slightly went wrong, in my opinion, is that they were very open in how they felt about the royal family, which is a very controversial thing to do and has caused them a lot more problems with the UK public maybe, or the press at least now. But what I found missing a little bit was, I don't know how to say it, like warmth. When you watch them together, oh my God, they're so beautiful. Yeah. I'm completely envious of their relationship. Right? They're such a good team. They're everything you want to be in a marriage.
I think that's kind of universally thought. They very much seem in love and have each other's backs. They very much are a team.
And when he said, that's why I married you. Or he said, that's why I'm married. He didn't actually say you. And then she said, oh, because of, pointing at like the Easter eggs and stuff. And he went, the simplicity. And that gave me goosebumps that moment. But the rest of the time, when I'm listening to her talking, there's a barrier. Like, I'm such a mushy person. I can cry at, commercials. I didn't cry at all when she was talking. And I kind of wanted to, but there was a barrier. There was something missing. And maybe that was her just trying to keep herself together, trying to stay composed. But I think it's counted against her a little bit because, especially again with the British press, they can take it and run with it. And, they're all calling her narcissistic now and so Californian. The moment they did that guided meditation on camera, I was like, oh no. Yeah. Like the UK are going to rip them to shreds for doing a meditation on camera.
But you're right. I think like it seems like especially Meghan is almost like that, struggling with that juxtaposition of acting kind of stately or polished or royal,
right?
Or just kind of being
real,
who she has always been, or being her authentic self. Yeah. And I can really empathize with not knowing how to act in that world. Absolutely. Because that once you know that everything you do is going to be critiqued and picked apart, then it's hard to be yourself. I tell Allie and Amanda all the time, like when we're doing the show, don't. Be careful. Don't read stuff, because then you start editing your stuff. You start, overthinking about it. And then you start thinking about, should I say this or say that? And, this is that times a million, right? And so I can see why she might be having a hard time.
But I also think, to your point, like it was so, I think in a way obvious, because certain clips of when they would flash back to things, I didn't see her being as edited. No. And then the juxtaposition between seeing her, again, coordinating flights with Harry and talking about American Airlines, so just herself, versus cut to her, interview portion where it feels very
when she's storytelling, she seems like she's storytelling and not necessarily opening up.
She also, she demonstrates her emotions. Nowhere near to the level of Amber Heard on the stand, but like how she'll open her eyes really wide. So she kind of wants to demonstrate what she's feeling rather than just feeling it and trusting that we'll feel what she's feeling.
Yeah, which is a totally relatable.
Absolutely. When there's a camera in your face and your whole future depends on it in terms of how people treat you.
I just think, I feel like their critics are almost like, it's like, I think they see someone like Harry especially, and even Meghan to a certain extent, because like Harry was born into this and Meghan married into this. And this fame and fortune that can come with it, right? And I think a lot of people stop there and think of it as like you're gifted a superpower. And the superpower is you can, like, whatever you do, you're going to be rich from, And I think there's this lack of empathy that comes with that. And they're thinking, well, you chose to use this superpower to make a tell-all and make money. And I think people are very especially it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, people in the UK are exceptionally critical of that because they almost like see this role, again, as like it's servitude. It's just like, hey, in this role, you're serving us, not the other way around.
The British public pays for the royal family to exist, right? So I wish I could remember, there's a saying, something like, we pay you something. I can't remember what it is, but they have to perform.
I think it's a we pay you pose.
Thank you. We pay you pose. Exactly.
We work hard, so you don't have to.
But, it's kind of like...
No, but, and then so this is another thing, like the British media in general, not just with the royal family, but with celebrities, say they feel like if you use the press, they own you.
Kind of,
and they'll build you up to break you back down again. And it's... It can really...
The fact that they're so savage is
it's so savage
because, like, I try, and again, it's not comparable, but all I can do is just try to relate to my own experiences. Right. But yeah, with my peers and the things I've done, I try to, for me to be able to do what I do, I have to change my perspective, right? I have to try to constantly tell myself it's not a big deal, or not focus on what people say, because again, I think it handcuffs me or makes me inauthentic. And just for my own mental health, it's just like if I was constantly focused, I have to just try to dismiss it as much as possible. With the press being what it is, like, are Harry and Meghan even capable of ignoring
it out? Well, no, and especially when they're basically being given death threats for themselves, for their children, because of their race, and then having their security taken away from them.
That was wild.
Imagine how scared they must have been. And they were given, 3 weeks notice that they were losing their security, and then good old Tyler Perry swoops in and saves the day.
Tyler Perry is definitely...
Oh my gosh.
He came off quite well.
Didn't he?
Godfather Tyler.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always really liked me some Tyler Perry.
So cute.
Now, Michelle Obama did an interview and gave a quote. What did she say? I thought it was really, really interesting. From Chloe, while she's looking that up, from the people in the UK, how many people in the UK are very, like, I was there over the summer for the first time and talked to some people. Some of the people I talked to talked about how it's all about the Queen. It's all about the royal family. Yeah. How many people in the UK subscribe to that kind of mentality versus a more kind of progressive, this is stupid, this is like, old fairy tale stuff?
Well, currently 67%, I think, of the UK population still believe that the monarchy is worthwhile and want it to continue.
67%? That's a pretty high number.
That drops by more than half with 18 to 24-year-olds.
Sure.
So the younger generation, to be honest, I don't think the younger generation really give a shit either way. They're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. But yeah, the older generation still believes that it's worthwhile and that it stands for something. And I get it. It's nice. And, like you said, you were just there and you see Buckingham Palace and the changing of the guards, and it's kind of beautiful. And as we were saying earlier on, very theatrical. And it's a great tourism drive. A lot of tourists come to the country because of the royal family. And but I think it's going to change. I think if the fact that 18 to 24-year-olds find it less important, then I guess as the generations go on, maybe it will start to disappear because they don't really have any power.
They have influence.
But
right?
Do they, though? This is now what we're realizing. Is it the press, actually?
Sure.
Right?
But they seem to be the catalyst. I mean, I guess influence in the, they do all these appearances and people do. I mean, they have influence in terms of when they show up.
They're on the money, right?
They're on the money, yeah.
Like the Queen, their royal family is literally on the money of the country.
Yes, they're on the money.
So they they have influence. They have not to everyone.
I'm just saying that, like, logistically, like, politically, they don't have any influence.
No. But I'm saying culturally.
Culturally,
and
they do, yeah.
I mean, they are. I mean, essentially all they are is just like a modern day social media influencer to a certain extent with a lot more prestige.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Kind of.
I don't, but like we're saying, I don't think people are that influenced by them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could.
Kate and Meghan definitely fashion-wise have had their moments. Like they always like say like the Kate effect or the Meghan effect. Like things sell out instantly.
But don't they have influence with their like power and like I don't know all the charitable things the royal family has done over the years, or Harry and Meghan, but they certainly have the capability of invoking change.
They have a huge platform and they can bring attention to something, which again is why it's so frustrating that they didn't use Harry and Meghan in a positive way.
Yeah. But, so do you have the Michelle's quote?
Yeah, so Michelle Obama said, public service, it's a bright, sharp, hot spotlight, and most people don't understand it, nor should they. The thing that I always keep in mind is that none of this is about us in public service. It's about the people that we serve. I always try to push the light back out and focus it on the folks and that we're actually here to serve. The thing that I hope for and the thing I think about is that this first and foremost is a family, and I pray for forgiveness and healing for them so they can use this as a teachable moment for us all.
I thought that was just a really interesting quote from Michelle Obama. And then you had Tyler Perry on the documentary, and he was just kind of like, this is fucked up. There's more they could say. This was bullshit.
She kept it classy.
And I just think, Michelle Obama and Tyler Perry, for me, both have a lot of like credibility. When both of them speak, I'm like, okay, all right, I'm listening for both of them. And I think it's interesting they both had very kind of different points of view. And the fact that Michelle Obama was speaking more from a place of like public service as the former first lady of our country, and kind of speaking in terms of like the responsibilities that the royals, I guess, have to their people. I couldn't help but wonder if it was a bit of a critique for Harry and Meghan to
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't see it that way.
Do this kind of documentary where Tyler, because Tyler, he's just a celebrity.
Yeah.
And Michelle Obama's, again, like a public servant. Now, she's also a celebrity now. But I just think it was kind of interesting, the 2 points of view that they were bringing to the table. I don't know if one's right or wrong versus the other. I just think it's interesting from the point of view they're coming from. I can only imagine that the Obamas are thinking, how much shit we've gone through? I was, the first black president and the first black first lady, and again, I can only imagine the horrific things they must have to deal with as being in the positions they were. And I wonder if they're thinking, you don't think we would want to have told our story? And
we chose to stay classy.
And we chose to not say anything. You don't think we would have wanted to like get paid to do X, Y, or Z? But we didn't. And we, and we don't expect people to understand or relate because you can't relate to this experience. Sure. And you have Tyler Perry out here.
They're still human beings. They still get to, have feelings.
I'm watching this, I will say, I wouldn't do anything different than Harry and Meghan.
I would have not got paid.
Well, I don't mean like, yeah. I mean, I when I say different, I mean up into the point of making the documentary, I would have felt how they felt.
Absolutely.
If I'm Harry, if I would have been like, this is fucked up. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I dealing with this bullshit? Yeah. If I met someone who was like Meghan and they treated her that way, I would tell them to fuck off.
They're in the perfect place.
Right? Like, I can't, I don't have any criticism for their frustrations of how they feel about the situation. And I believe their point of view.
Me too.
Right? Like,
I didn't think anything they said was false. I believed everything that they said.
Totally. But it did. Them making this documentary tell-all, it did very much make me interested in the other side.
Right.
I am curious about the other point of view.
Right. And well, also they were doing what they said they didn't want to be doing anymore, which was spilling the tea, basically.
Yeah.
They were saying like, we want to be left alone, blah, blah, blah. And they went and spilt the tea on the royal family and got paid a lot of money for doing it. See, that's another thing. If they'd have not got paid any money, they'd have had a maybe even slighter, softer reaction to it.
Yeah.
But now they're just considered money hungry, grabbing, looking for attention, narcissistic, Californian, blah, blah, blah.
It's just, and it's just hard to argue. Like it's you're not going to convince, they were never, and that was kind of my critique of doing this series was they did a tell-all basically about their family feud. And while I empathize and I'm here for it and I've enjoyed watching it.
Me too.
And thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, I've been fascinated by their approach because they do seem to be people who do want people to like them. They do care about their public image. And
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. So, but how their execution, I feel like there was a better way.
Yeah, they should have focused more on all the amazing things that they're doing. Yeah, because they don't have to talk bad about others for us to see the good that they're doing.
Yeah.
Why didn't they leave us to be most intelligent enough to just see their worth?
That's what I totally agree. And yeah, they told us about it and they showed glimpses of some of the things they're doing. I mean, like, no, why didn't they do a documentary about and bringing awareness to this variety of causes they seem to be passionate about, and the focus is the charitable organizations, and then sprinkle in glimpses of their relationship and their love.
This is what drove us to do
and
this,
and their family.
I would say that is the very cause that they're trying to bring attention to is like media scrutiny and the way that it is so bogus that it is completely purchasable. Like I would consider this an expose and like more beyond like the royal family. It's talking about the way that like media operates. It's talking about the role of money in media, both in the way that it can tear apart families, as we saw with like Meghan and her father, and how like that turned into a huge circus, and also with William and the dynamics that exist that allow certain people to have this amazing narrative. Like I think the very point of this documentary was for Meghan to say like, I am this like very like powerful, competent, capable person, and I had thoughts of taking my own life because of the way I was treated in media, and talking about online trolls. And to me, like that was one of the most resounding takeaways was like, please be mindful that like, as she kind of said to herself, like, I am a mother, I am a person. And it's one thing when everyone's like spouting garbage on the internet and you see that's written down. It's another thing when you actually meet someone who is taking in all of those beliefs as true facts.
Absolutely.
And so to me, I thought that was the point of the documentary. It was like the media circus of it all.
Sure, but I just don't we think that like, unfortunately for them, it wasn't going to resonate with everyone because they got paid and because they were spilling
they used the media,
and it's just a lot of like tit for tat, so to speak.
Right. When she said about how she went to that public engagement and somebody said to her, a civilian said to her, "What you're doing to your father is wrong," and she realized for the first time, oh, wow, you believe it. I thought nobody believed the tabloids, but you actually believe it. That was a really heartbreaking moment, actually. But then this little voice on my shoulder goes, did you not know anything about Princess Diana? Like, she does say a few times, I was so naive. I had no idea. If you're of a certain age, you know the Diana story. And especially, I'm sorry, who goes on a date without Googling the person you're going on a date with?
I had a hard time totally buying her naiveness. Meghan comes across as an incredibly intelligent and capable person. And if anything, I think she gets unfairly criticized for, her intelligence, for her
emotional intelligence.
Yeah, because I think people will often criticize those people of being strategic or kind of calculated. and disingenuous and things like that. And so, and I think that's an unfair criticism for people like that. But it's just hard for me to buy when someone like Meghan, who I see as a highly intelligent, capable kind of, I think she seems like the alpha in this relationship, which I think is another reason why she gets criticized, because I think there's a lot of people, especially it seems like the people who are royal family fans and the Brits, who don't like their prince, seem to be the beta in this relationship. And
but hey, that works in a lot of relationships.
It works in their relationship, and
honestly,
he likes a strong, powerful woman. I think a lot of their critics don't like that.
Yeah, in the documentary, though, I didn't see her leading him in any way. I saw them supporting each other. I think he came across so well. I was so impressed with him. I've grown up with him. We're not that far apart in age. And I've spent time with him in public as a teenager. And, he was always a little bit different from the rest. And because he is and I can't believe we're all saying this now, but the spare, he was allowed a little bit more freedom. And, I've been at parties with him, and he's a really nice, normal, regular guy. And I think that's wonderful and refreshing. And like Michelle was saying earlier, because of the trauma of his mother, I think it's made him a more emotionally intelligent person. Like, I don't want to speak about the British population as a whole, but I've lived here in LA for 12 years. I've changed so much since I've lived here in terms of my emotional intelligence. We are absolutely made to feel that big emotions are wrong, they're embarrassing, that you should keep the stiff upper lip. It's all true. Like, the cliches are true. You're told, don't cry. Whereas here I feel like you're encouraged, oh yes, let your feelings out, cry, So we are taught to be very stiff and proper. And I feel like she was just bringing that to him, and he already had it in him from the loss of his mother. And it could have been so beautiful for them to show this next generation of Brits. It's okay to feel. Any feelings you have are okay, and you can express them. And it's okay to be kind to each other.
Yeah.
And to try and, shift that, because the press is going to do what the press is going to do, but you don't have to buy it. You don't have to buy the magazines. But, evil and hate is clickbait. It sells more than
negativity is way more clickbaitable.
But it's so hurtful. A lot of in the UK, a lot of TV, like reality show stars that were just regular Joes before they went on the reality show, they suffer so badly afterwards because of how they're treated in the press and because they don't know what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah, and from that standpoint, like I love that they brought awareness to that.
Yeah.
It's like, it seems like they underestimated, like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what Harry and Meghan's goal was for doing this.
Exactly.
Like, maybe they were thinking, we just want to activate our supporters. We want the people who want to support us to hear us out. And maybe the people who don't know much about us to also, understand us more. But maybe they were never trying to convince the opinions of the people who are already their critics.
Right, which I think is what's happened. I feel like people that were emotionally intelligent enough to understand their frame of mind are still that way since the documentary. And the people that were going to hate are still going to hate. In fact, they're going to double down on it by calling them, out for being...
But it seemed like they were trying to change the minds of their critics. And I just feel like that was never going... It was never going to happen.
But what really surprised me watching it, and actually I think this was like the first few episodes, was how close she used to be with her dad, right? Mm-hmm. Because all we know now is how they don't talk to each other anymore. And so I was so surprised when I assumed that maybe they were slightly estranged before or something, but they were really, really, really close.
They were closer than I realized.
Yeah.
I thought, maybe it was just kind of never a great relationship. Right. And now that she became who she is, it was just like, of course, the father who was never part of my life is mouthing off. And
that's what I thought, like with the sister, which was what it was with the sister. She wasn't really ever a huge part of her life. But also I was surprised that I assumed by him selling his stories and all those kind of things that maybe he wasn't very savvy, right? But he's in the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. He works in Hollywood. I mean, he's a set designer, but you're in the industry. Yeah. You can't be that naive.
But I also feel like that example of specifically her letter was a perfect, like...
I feel like she got set up by the royal family.
But that's the thing. I think it's a perfect example of probably what she went through every day, because you're completely stuck. It was due to their encouragement to write the letter that she sent it. And then the press gets it, and she turns back to, again, the Queen, Charles, William. What do we do?
And that was pretty fucked up. The redacted, like how they redacted stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you can change the entire contents of a letter.
Yeah, but I just think it's awful that they basically encouraged her to send this, and then when it backfires, they're like, "Whoops, not sure. You're on your own."
She literally came to them,
I feel like they
and said, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
Why would you ever suggest in this day and age a physical piece of paper?
Yeah. Why did... It doesn't...
And also, why didn't the royal family get that letter back off the Daily Mail and not let them print it? They have the power, apparently, because they hide stuff about William or whoever else, as they were saying. So why did they let them go ahead and print it? And other than if they wanted her to look bad.
Yeah, I think they're definitely
so
I believe all of it,
so
for sure.
I also think that part of the documentary, when she was like, what do I do? Write a letter where the return address is Kensington Palace, like spoke to some of the logistical things that it's like, sure, we can all say on an intellectual level, like, yeah, she has very limited options as a royal. I don't know that we have actually all thought through the everyday aspects of communication in life that are truly cut off to her. Like, I thought that was just like a little moment of being like, wow, you really are, despite having all of this like immense power and visibility, like so bound in terms of like what you can do and like how you can communicate with people outside of this structure.
Even the fact that she couldn't seek help or go to therapy or, you know, go anywhere because they didn't want that to reflect badly on the family.
That was something that I wish they talked about more. I remember feeling afterwards, well, has she gotten therapy? Because like I do my therapy sessions on Zoom. You know, if it was and the therapist isn't allowed to tell anybody that they see you. So if they didn't let her go somewhere, like has she gotten help? Like if it was about her physically going to a building to stay, and so the press would see that she was there, and which again shouldn't be a problem anyway. But did she speak to anybody?
Yeah, I wonder if she's doing it now.
Right. Like we didn't get to
Should
really
we send
see
her
where
a
that
BetterHelp
went.
code, or
if they're doing a guided meditation in the morning, she's got to be in therapy.
But as far as the stuff with like, you know, back to like, you know, her family, I wish for their sake they would have gone about it a different way, because you know, we're here and it seems like everyone in this room really understands and empathizes with their point of view, but it doesn't seem to have softened any of the criticism coming their way. In fact, it seems to have ignited like an entire half of nation, 60%, 67% of a nation. And even a lot of Americans, it's not resonating with them. And then I saw a clip of like her brother, I think he was on Piers Morgan or some shit like that. And not that I agree with anything he's saying, but he was just, you know, her brother's interview was just like, this is a completely one side of the story. There's so many lies and et cetera, et cetera. I found myself, and he's just like, we're coming out with our own tell-all. Like they're coming out with their, and I heard Meghan's.
And then we'll get another one from Harry and Meghan.
No, and I also heard that her ex-husband's writing a book.
Oh, of course.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. What did they expect?
Right.
You know, did Harry and Meghan expect that they could do this very visible and kind of everyone was going to watch and talk about it, get
and that
paid,
would be the final.
And that would be the final, the last word?
Yeah.
There's no way you could be that naive.
As terrible as her dad's family might be, I mean, I can understand, like, you know, Natalie's my girlfriend, very team Meghan. Like, she doesn't even want to hear it. She's just like, you know, so like I was pissing her off while watching it because I was just like, well, what about this?
Playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I was just like considering other points of view. And listen, like, I don't know what her family is like, but could you imagine having your entire family basically be painted as this shitty, horrible family that are a bunch of losers? And her brother in this interview did say, we truly knew nothing about this family, and we weren't given any kind of guidance on how to handle things or behave. And yeah, maybe her dad should have known better and he's got access to Hollywood, but like, I don't know, as crazy as this family seems, the royal family in the press and how they act, we don't want to offer like Meghan's dad's side of the family any grace at all. And it's just kind of like, if I'm them, I would be frustrated too. And I am curious about their point of view.
But they're speaking at their daughter's expense.
Totally.
Like,
I'm not agreeing with
imagine if your
him.
mom or your dad was like,
Totally.
Let me tell you more.
Was there? Yeah, I'm not.
You think he's bad enough?
I totally get it. I just like on a human side, I'm not surprised that they are wanting to defend themselves. Is what I guess what I'm saying. Not that I agree with them. I understand why they are doing this.
Meghan's ex-husband said that she made him feel like a piece of something stuck to the bottom of her shoe.
Oh gosh.
Wow. See? I mean, like that's a strong statement.
Meghan's former friend, who was the maid of honor at their wedding, said that she didn't want to associate herself with Meghan after how she handled the divorce. Wow.
But
people are getting their quotes. Huh?
Like, did Harry and Meghan really expect it to end here? Because to me, I watched this documentary, then I'm on TikTok and I see her brother's interview and I see how her ex-husband's coming out of the tell-all. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is just getting messier and messier. And this Netflix documentary is just like one more piece in this, again, like modern day Shakespearean drama.
And they'd already done Oprah. And activity breeds activity. Yeah, every time they come out and say something, other people are going to double back down.
For every action, there's a positive equal reaction. Like that.
So their lifestyle in that last half hour, or even in some of the last few episodes, doesn't their lifestyle here in California just look so idyllic and beautiful and wonderful?
Yeah.
So just cherish it.
Yeah.
Cherish it and don't keep putting yourself out there for this to then
When I was watching it and they were focusing on their relationship, I was sucked in and totally is just like, God, they seem wonderful and they'd be friends. They seem like delightful people. And yes, their relationship seems healthy and like, wow, good for them. I was all in. And then when they were talking shit about family, whether I believe them or not, I had a different feeling. It was more of a, yeah, I hear you, but I don't think this is going to play out the way you want, kind of, and I've learned that tough lesson the hard way many times, I've seen these comments on the internet too. It's like they have the right to be heard. And of course, yes, you do. Like they shouldn't be silenced. That doesn't mean like, it's just, even if I want to be heard all the time, but like, or like Michelle Obama saying, I'm sure she would love to be heard at times. Sometimes we just have to make that tough choice of, is it worth it? And what's going to be the reaction to me being heard? Is it going to want to make other people be heard too? And then who has the right to get the last word in? There's no real clear answer. And now this has just become a story of, is it who threw the first stone? Is that the debate? Like when it comes to her dad, or is it when we decide who's right or wrong? Is it,
well, you started it. Then I reacted this way.
You struck first, and now, whatever happened, however this family feud between Meghan and her dad started, do you think Meghan's family is really like thinking, well, I'd be willing to bet that their version of the story is, we're stupid Americans who didn't know anything about the royal family. We fucked up and we made some mistakes, but you eviscerated our family.
But she didn't.
I don't know. Like, you don't think that's, I mean.
You don't think that was clear?
Because look at her mom.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Her and her mom have a perfectly good relationship. Her mom was under the same amount of scrutiny, the same amount of like, if not more,
making out that she was from the ghetto in Los Angeles.
Totally. But Meghan hasn't criticized her mom at all. Meghan has criticized her dad.
Wait, has she?
In this documentary?
Yeah, but only in response. If we're talking about who threw the first stone, it's only in response to him selling
I think you guys are missing
stories.
my point.
I don't know if she's criticized her father, though.
I don't think so either.
I think if we went back and really looked at her quotes,
okay. She's criticized her family,
but
her dad's side of the family.
Do you remember specific verbiage of her doing that?
She was talking about how, obviously, with her mom being black, and how the press tried to, paint them this horrible picture and all these racist remarks. And then she said, it was almost like, ironically, my mom's side of the family is just kind of these wonderful people. And it's my dad's side of the family that's just kind of this messy, that's a quote. That's a quote from the documentary.
I just feel like a lot of what she's talked about with her dad and whatever, she never flat out said, I can't stand him. I can't blah, blah, blah.
I just felt that she was heartbroken.
Yeah. To me, it seemed much more observational than attacking.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm her family, that she did say that.
Yeah.
And while I agree, and her family doesn't sound pleasant, if I'm Harry and Meghan, I empathize with them way more than I empathize with her family. I'm not surprised that her family isn't seeing it this way.
I'm so glad her niece came back into the...
I know, wasn't that cute?
In the timeline, that was a cute way to wrap it up. Because we started with that at the beginning of them being like torn apart by all of this and not being able to attend the wedding. And then she shows up at the house.
And how understanding was she when she was told, look, these are the reasons why
you can't
but
come
again,
to the wedding.
It comes down to aesthetics, and doesn't that make you mad?
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't go and get mental health care. No, you can't have your favorite family member come to the wedding because of how it might look on the outside. I guess that's kind of what it's all about, isn't it? That's basically what this whole thing's been about, is the aesthetic and protocol.
Yeah. And I think you and I agree on the sense that like
Sid's snoring really loudly.
Is that him snoring?
Yeah.
That's
it
so
sounds
funny.
like I've got like a squeaky belly or something.
That's hysterical.
He's snoring.
I think if we were like their PR team or if we were them, we would like to think, and who knows, because we don't know we can't actually relate. We don't know what we would do in their shoes.
No, but we have an understanding of how this thing works.
Like to think that it's like I would have wanted to know what my other options were. Yeah. You know, how can I leverage this platform? How can I get my bag and make my money? And how can I feel like I could be heard over time without maybe doing this?
Dissing the royal family.
Yeah. And it's not that they don't have a right, and it's not that they're not wrong, and it's not that I don't believe them. It just comes down to, listen, every time, again, we talk about The Bachelor all the time, and every time we have someone come on and do their tell-all, tell their side of the story, it's always, and I tell all my guests, it's like, listen, I want you to tell your side of the story. I want to humanize you. I want people to really understand who you are. And I think a lot of people are going to empathize with you, and I think they're going to hear you, but you're not going to win everyone over. And I want to set that expectation with you that it's, this is the downside of doing these things. And, I'm just really curious. I'm really wondering if Meghan and Harry just didn't give a shit and knew that, or they I would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation if it happened, when they were like considering the pros and cons, and the cons of doing this, like what was their reasoning to still go forward and do this. And I would just kind of be fascinated by that.
Yeah, me too. Do you know what else I really want to know?
What's that?
What William texted them when they were on Skype with Tyler Perry. Right? They were on FaceTime or whatever with Tyler, and he goes, oh, wait, Harry's brother's texting. And then they hung up, and then we never saw what it was.
It didn't seem adversarial, almost.
No.
It almost seemed like, what are we...
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it was like a...
Yeah.
What do you think?
Was it in response, was it when they just found out they'd won the kind of, defamation case, whatever, with the Mail, or they weren't going to go to trial or whatever? Was it just after that?
Oh, I think it was after the Oprah interview.
Was it Oprah?
Yeah, it was after the Oprah
interview. Because Tyler Perry
called to say, I see they've released a statement, but I haven't clicked on it yet. Then they read the statement together.
That's right.
And then the text came in.
Yeah. And that statement was nice. Yeah.
Sid.
It's so loud, isn't it?
ASMR from Sid.
Oh, now he's gone quiet. I think it's just that's the thing. It hasn't been wrapped up, and it's probably to be continued.
It does feel
right?
a bit I know they felt they had a conclusion, but it's still like, well, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, and again, I'm just, as someone who went into this kind of, hey, I know my audience is going to be interested in it. This is so big that like the average person is going to tune in. I'm very invested, and if her family comes out with a tell-all, I don't know if I'll read her ex-husband's memoir, that's for sure. But I'll definitely be like, what did he say? I'm going to be curious.
Get some spark notes.
And
so basically what we're saying is the documentary has left us still wondering. We still don't really know who she is.
I just think it was more fuel to the fire. It was just, I think what it did is really, I think this blew this up, and it's only creating more fascination. And now you have, again, it's a very polarizing topic. There's so many like layers. There's, you have conversations about racism and race. You have conversations about just people who are just like more progressive versus institutional people. And a lot of people like their traditions, and they like, and I think there's a lot of value in traditions as well. Right. And then other people who are just like, change is always good. Don't let the past kind of like hold you down for the future. And there's a lot of, elements of people who, like want their second chance. Elements of people who have set up boundaries with their family and who've been like, I don't want you a part of my life, even though you're family. And other people who have a very strong argument of like, hey, family is messy, family fucks up, but they're family, and you try to make it work. And, you should always look for some type of reconciliation. So there's elements of that, and people being, taking sides based off of that. So it's a very fascinating kind of story that I think really connects with a lot of people. I think on a way for my girlfriend Natalie. I think if I had to guess, she didn't say this, but like she started dating me and kind of got inundated of this crazy Bachelor Nation world that on a very much smaller scale, I think she can relate to Meghan Markle, who is this like, she has people who's decided to like have opinions about Natalie, decide who she is. And like, well, it's not like in mainstream press or anything like that, but like, it's all relative. On that level, when you are dealing with this stuff, like there's no, no one gets to say what's worse and what's more, or you don't get to feel this way. And so I think, people relate to, the people are relating to Meghan for people who felt like they kind of, joined something where they felt like an outsider and weren't welcomed, and
or where they, just for people that had their power taken away from them.
Yeah.
And they want to get it back.
Yeah. So it's fascinating just the sides people are jumping on and how ultimately they're just kind of relating to, the side that, I guess they relate to the most.
But clearly it's like they knew this was happening, or they knew they were going to produce something, because the more I kept watching, I was like, we have photos and videos of everything. They've been prepping for this for years. We have professional photos of them moving out of their home. Like, where are these coming from? Like, everything was captured.
Yeah. And I guess I think that gives their critics kind of ammunition. To like, it's...
Because it's so planned out, and we want everything to be off the cuff and real and raw.
Yeah, and it's like and I think their critics are, the people who are very much, the institution, this is a role of servitude. It's this, and I've seen this where it's like Meghan and Harry almost wanted to be celebrities and almost reality TV stars rather than the roles and responsibilities and the greater good, like believing in something that's greater than themselves. That I'm guessing William and Kate believe that they're doing, or that they're his grandmother believed that she was doing.
In terms of serving the monarchy.
Yes. And other,
not in terms, because they're out there wanting to save the world, right? Like they have a voice and they have a cause.
But they want to do it their way.
Right.
And I think
fair enough. And here's the thing. It's not like they said, oh, we're staying in the royal family, want to be this way. They've stepped down.
Yeah.
I
don't give a shit. Yeah. I just think I can see why the people who care about that type of stuff hate what they're seeing.
And
from
also,
Meghan and
like straight away, she came in and she's an actress, and that puts everybody off straight away. It was always going to be difficult for her to be accepted for many reasons. And like we said, although to be fair, Kate, she was kind of a normal girl too.
Was she?
Yeah, like they met at school. Her parents run a party planning. Yeah. She was a kind of, and it's true. The press didn't sacrifice her. I think the most controversial thing I can remember ever coming out about Kate was a picture of her when low-rise jeans were in, and she was wearing low-rise jeans and a crop top in a school fashion show.
Oh,
I think that was as racy as it got.
Fashion show. We're gonna have to talk about the lingerie dress she wore in the fashion show.
Oh yeah, and that as well. Yeah. That was the most controversial.
Like that was the night where William was like,
"Hello."
Oh.
Okay. I mean, this is how much like I didn't wasn't in awe of the royals, because we were watching the documentary and I had this and they showed the wedding. I was like, they had Idris Elba DJ their wedding? That's what kind of got me.
Nicholas.
I was really excited about that.
Okay.
Not so much that she was going to be a princess.
Right.
But it is so surreal. I thought it was really cool they had Idris Elba.
Yeah, and it was so
DJ
cute that her mum was just at the front fangirling over Elton John.
Yeah.
It did make it.
To me, that was cool. It wasn't so much that that she was part of the royal family, but it is such a surreal world that she jumped into. I mean, the whole thing is a literal fairy tale. You have this family basically playing dress up as a fairy tale family that we read about in literal fairy tales, and there's movies about the kings and queens, and they're just playing. It's cosplay in modern times, essentially.
Let's leave it at that.
All right, it's time for texting office hours. How's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Lily. So I am here today to talk about how to get over my brother's best friend after he dumped me and broke my heart.
Okay. How old are you, Lily?
I'm 22.
Tell us about your ex, your brother's best friend. Give us the tea. What's going on?
Okay, so I've known him since I was about 14 years old. He was like my brother's college roommate, everything like that. And he was always at my family functions. Everybody knows him. So when I turned 21, I started to go out to the bars with them. My friends would go out with his friends. And I had a crush on him. And over time, like he would message me like on different apps and all that stuff. We eventually like hooked up, and then it was a bunch of drama because my brother found out. And
so your brother wasn't excited about it first happening?
No, not at all. Not at all. He was not happy.
Who did he blame more, you or his friend?
He blamed his friend more. His friend, which I mean, I knew this, I guess, going into it, was very much of like a fuckboy. And so he was very upset. He was upset at me too. So basically after that, everyone knew my business. My brother told everybody, told my whole entire family, told every person that he could think of. And so for a while, it was a big drama within my family. Like even things that my family had said to me was like very hurtful. And so the best friend and I started like actually dating after that. And we dated, I want to say like 7 months or so, and we broke up at the end of September. So since then, we have kind of had some communication. Actually, when I wrote into you last week, there has been more drama that has even happened since then. When I originally like wrote into you, I was thinking like, should I continue to talk to him? Should I not? But as of yesterday, there has been even more things, and now I just need to know how to move on from somebody that is like that.
What happened?
So a couple weeks ago, he reached out to me, and I think it was kind of because he knew I was dating somebody else. Where we're from is this town where there's a city in the middle where everybody moves to when they're in their 20s. That's where they go out. Everyone knows everyone. So anytime that I would go out, people would come up to me saying things about him, whatever. So one time I was out and I was actually on a date at a bar, and he was at the same bar, and he saw me there. And then I saw him 2 more times out when I was with my friends. So he like reached out to me, and then we started seeing each other again.
He ended the relationship initially?
He did.
Yeah. Okay. What was his reasons?
He said it's because I did not trust him, and he thought it was because I knew too much of his past. And that's why I didn't trust him.
And that's why he ended the relationship?
Yeah, and he said it was because like we were arguing about stuff because I didn't trust him.
What did you think about that?
I mean, I think I did not trust him, but I wouldn't say it was because I knew his past. I would say it was because of the way that he behaved in our relationship.
Fair enough. Okay. But at least you agree that the fact that you didn't trust him.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a week ago, he went to a football game, and he asked me to pick him up from the bar, and I lived like 10 minutes from the bar.
So I picked him
up like last week. Yeah.
Why? Why did he ask you to pick him up?
I guess because he was just drunk.
You've been broken up since September?
Yeah, but we were back in communication.
As friends?
Were you guys hooking up? Yeah, you were hooking up. Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
And so
why?
Why hooking up?
Yeah. Why did you forget about his reasoning at this point? I'm more curious about your choices in this. Why did you choose to start hanging out with a guy that you admitted that you don't trust? And also, even though I know you were heartbroken over it, but like when he ended it, like how did you feel about being in a relationship with someone that you have no problem saying you don't trust based off of his actions in the relationship? I
think I just wanted to believe that it was going to change, which is, I know, stupid, but...
Well, I mean, at least it's an honest answer.
Yeah. Okay. But so I ended up picking him up from the bar, and obviously he had been drinking, so I didn't really like entertain the conversation of what he was saying to me, but he just like kept saying that he was still in love with me and that he can't move on and he can't like, he's just like so upset and all this stuff. And then come to find out, he went to the football game with a girl. Wow. And I picked him up from him ditching this girl.
How did it make you feel when he was telling you that he still loved you?
It made me feel good, but not good at the same time. I don't really know. I was confused, I think.
That makes sense. I mean, listen, if someone you care about or cared about, and you care about them still, which is normal, and says that to you, like, it's validating. If nothing else, it's validating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that feels good. And especially if it's someone that you have high hopes for, and you've had high hopes from. You have hoped that he would probably be a better partner, and you probably had hoped that he would act in a way that made it easy to trust him.
Yeah.
And so that feels good. But the part that didn't feel good is probably your gut telling you that something is off. Like my guess is the part that felt good was the validating part of it all, that he still cared, and even though he was at a game with another girl, that you still mattered,
and that it was real in the first place.
And that was real. It like kind of, we always had that fear of like, did nothing matter and things like that when relationships end. So that part made you feel good, but the part that didn't feel good is the fact, my guess is the fact that you knew that you can't trust him and that you probably can't have a relationship with him.
Yeah. And then even after that, so I still continued to talk to him after that, and why I no longer have responded to anything he has said in the past couple of days is because he had told, when I found out, he didn't tell me that he went with that girl. I found out, like I said, everyone knows everybody's business where I'm from. So it was very easy to find that information out. And so I confronted him about it, and he was just like basically telling me he's not seeing this girl. They've gone out, whatever. He doesn't like her. He doesn't care about her, whatever. And so then this past weekend, I actually met that girl's roommates at the bar, and they knew exactly who I was. And they came up to me and were like saying things about him. And I guess everyone thinks that those two are dating. So,
well, they probably are. Yeah, they went to a game together.
Yeah, they probably are.
Yeah, I mean, dating, like nowadays in 2022, dating, are they boyfriend and girlfriend? Are they hooking up?
Are they a thing?
They probably went on a couple dates.
Is it a situationship?
Yeah. They've definitely fucked. That's for sure.
And so then I told him that, and then I was like, look, like, leave me out of it. If you're with her, I don't want to be talking to you. And then he's tried to call me, he's tried to text me and everything. I just have never said a thing to him.
That's as I see it, that's your problem right now, mentally, is that if you're with her, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah. And it's the fact that you need to get to a place where you just don't want to talk to him, regardless of the conditions. More like, and as opposed to oversimplifying it, if you're with her, I don't want to talk to you. If nothing else, it should be, well, until you become the person I need you to be, or until you treat me X, Y, or Z way, or until I can know I trust you, I don't want to be a part of your life. As opposed to until you pick me over someone else, then it becomes, that mentality, you make yourself vulnerable kind of to your ego because then he can, it gives him the window to, at any moment when he wants to pick you, like when he's like drunk after a game, he wants to ditch someone, he's thinking he's doing you a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but I picked you, I'm not talking to her. Guess what? She sucks. I realized. Aren't you lucky?
Here I am.
I picked you.
I'm all yours.
Yeah.
And you kind of set yourself up to perpetuate this, because almost certainly he's going to do that, because you actually literally told him to do that, to like look you up when he's bored, essentially.
You've allowed him to.
You've told him to do that, per se.
Yeah.
So I want to get you at a place where you're more thinking about how he was or how he is as a partner.
I think like I'm already kind of at that place where I just don't really want to talk to him anyways. It's just because I feel like I felt that way, not even just this with this particular girl, but it's just like anything else that's more important at the time. It just like, to me, I'm like, I'm not the first priority ever.
Does your brother have an opinion?
Yeah. The whole situation though with my brother, it's he doesn't like the guy anymore, but it's also like my brother was not very nice to me throughout the whole situation.
Yeah, so. I was gonna say, your brother, that was really kind of shitty for him to air your laundry, and I don't know what your family said to you, but like more specifically, it wasn't his business to like out you and what you've been doing. yeah, that was kind of shitty of him.
No, yeah, that's the other whole like thing with my ex-boyfriend. It's like the whole situation was really shitty, and like everything that my brother or my parents or anybody had said to me was really shitty. And so my boyfriend at the time was like very on my side, very like defensive of me. And then now, and he and I actually even had a conversation about all that a few weeks ago. And it's like, he even now was saying how he can't believe people would be like so hurtful towards me. And then he is being hurtful, and he said hurtful things to me after I found out about that girl. He was texting me like nasty stuff. So it's like, you say that it's like terrible that people would be mean to me, but then you're doing that as well. And it's just
because
like,
he's using his pain to justify what he's saying or his frustrations, or, you know,
he's trying to make you the monster so he can be the good guy.
Everyone's the hero in their own story kind of thing.
Yeah.
know? And so it's easy for him to have your back when you had a common interest. And that common interest was your family was also against him. So like, it wasn't that hard to like have your back because he was serving himself as much as he was serving you in that moment.
Yeah.
But now you guys are more at odds with each other. And so he's not even capable of seeing that, which is, you should recognize that you know, people are capable. It's few and far between to find people with that kind of emotional maturity who can say, you know what, I recognize that I need to step up here and you know.
But they have to be ready and they have to want to, right?
Yeah. And he's what, 26?
Yeah, he's 26.
Going on, 21 kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely, and when you broke up with you, those are the things you really have to, like, essentially, I mean, it sounds like first you wrote in kind of wondering if it's ever okay to get back with an ex, and it sounds like, listen, there's exceptions to every rule. You know how I feel about getting back with an ex. Like, I don't normally recommend it. There's usually a reason why relationships end, and it's just much easier when we were missing those people to fantasize about the good and ignore the bad. People can mature and change over time, but change usually happens over time, not a couple weeks, and
in that time you're going to find somebody that treats you wonderfully.
Yeah.
So you just have to try to, I think you need to, how are you going to cut them off? Because right now you're still very much, I think you're enjoying the drama more than you let on a little bit. Like I don't think you're doing everything you can to remove yourself from anything that's related to him in this drama.
I guess I haven't really like completely removed myself. I haven't responded to anything he said or anything like that.
That's good. But is that like right now, or is that like because you're upset right now? Is that like you kind of, and I don't know the answer, but is that you just, are you playing games with yourself and him at the same time? Or are you truly done kind of thing? And you have to kind of answer yourself that question, because like sometimes like, well, I'm not responding, I'm done. And then a week goes by and then you start like reassessing, and then it's just, well, I'm less mad now, and, and things like that.
Yeah. I want to be done. That's the thing. And like the issue is because before I kind of said that to myself too, because there was a time when, so about a month ago, we had been talking, and then I decided I didn't want to talk to him anymore. And I told him that, and then we started talking again. And it's like, I want to be done. And that's the problem. It's like, I don't know how to just like completely like just stop and like move on and like
you have
leave it behind me.
Yeah. It's a lot of self-policing, and it's a lot of holding yourself accountable and setting certain boundaries for yourself and then enforcing them. And then in moments of loneliness or boredom, when he pops in, to just say no to yourself. It's like you're not really saying no to him as much as you're saying no to you giving in to knowing that in that moment, talking to him would feel nice, or hooking up with him would be nice, and just wanting that comfort would feel nice, and not giving in to those feelings. It's like I use an analogy, like it's like a candy fix, or just any type of addiction that you have. There's a bit of an addiction you have to him, and the feeling he can bring you. He knows you very well. He's probably good at getting you out of bad moods, and that same type of kind of energy he's using to kind of get you back at his convenience. And so you just have to really state like I think almost out loud to yourself, I do not want to get back together with him. And then it's recognizing. I think sometimes people in this situation, it's just like they go too far by saying, well, they're a piece of shit. I hate them. They're horrible. I don't want to get back together with them. And that's not really the truth. The truth is, you care about him. Has a lot of great qualities. There are parts about him you're definitely going to miss. There are other parts about him that you've realized you don't want a relationship, and that ultimately him as a whole and who he is as a person today is not an ideal partner for you. And seeing that more honestly. So that way, when he comes back, you're not like, well, I guess he's not that bad. And maybe I should give him a second chance and things like that. You've already kind of accepted and had that conversation with yourself. I'm like, he isn't that bad. And he has the ability to make me happy, and he does have the ability to make me feel good. But I have accepted and decided that overall, who he is as a person is not something I want in my life. And every time I give in to that, it's only setting me back. You know, and I think you have to have that mentality rather than these kind of extremes of he's horrible, he sucks, he's been hanging out with this girl, or he's sorry and now, he wants to make me happy. Because the person you want, it sounds like, and the person you always hoped he could be, that's not who he is now, and he is not going to be anytime soon. You know, maybe 10 years from now, maybe after some very traumatic experience of some other heartbreak.
Some heartbreak of his own.
Maybe some therapy, I don't know. But none of this is going to happen in the next 2 months or year or something like that. And you're far better off just accepting that and truly moving on, and then trying to play games with yourself and confuse yourself by being like, well, he seems nice today, and he seems really apologetic, and he's saying all the right things. He's clearly capable of saying the right things, and he's clearly capable of charming you, and he's clearly capable of making you happy. But that doesn't mean he should be your partner.
Yeah, I agree.
And in terms of practicalities, like you were saying, where you can become like addicted to a person like you would to sugar or whatever, I find helpful for me in those situations where you are jonesing for that person, it's better to cut off all contact for like a good 30 days, let's say at least, maybe more. Because that way you can remove yourself when you're still seeing them or picking them up from bars late at night. It's so much easier to get dragged back into it. You need to just separate, and then maybe one day you can be friends or something.
Yeah, I would block him if you can.
Okay.
And listen, depending on how he reacts, and again, this is not to get a reaction from him. This is for you, for your mental health. Yeah. And depending on how you want, you could say, hey, listen, I'm going to do this because I really want to move on. If you don't think he's going to respect the fact that have you asked him not to reach out to you?
I just have not responded to anything that he's said, because when I had those conversations with those girls, it was on Saturday. So since Saturday, he's called me like twice. He's texted me like 3 times, and I just have not.
Yeah. Right now, you're very much in you're really mad for what he did kind of state, but that's going to die down. And when that dies down, you have to still be willing to not want to talk to him.
Yeah.
And get that feeling from people who you love and who love you, and surround yourself with those people.
Yeah. And also, like, there's a party that's not talking to him because you're mad at him, not because you don't want to talk to him anymore. You really moved on, and you want him to know that you're mad at him, and you want him to know that you're not returning his calls, and you have to get rid of that feeling too. You have to just not want to talk to him and not worry about how he's reacting to you not wanting to talk to him.
Yeah, I know. I just don't know how to feel that, like how to switch the feeling.
Well, like,
it takes time, but separation.
Yeah.
I've been through it. I can't even tell you how many times I've had my heart broken. You really have to separate, and most importantly, keep talking. Like, it's really great what you've done today. You've called Nick, and I think journaling or talking gets it out of your body. Are you feeling like a lot of anxiety, like a lot of anxious energy? I know that, especially with where you now have these girls talking to you about maybe he's dating this other person, and all of that just causes so much energy in you, doesn't it?
Just worrying about how you look,
like feeling like a fool, and all of those things.
It doesn't really.
I'm so sorry you're going through it. It's a horrible, horrible place to be, but you're not alone. And we've all been through it, and we've all come out the other side. Because I think we can all say we remember times when we were like, I'm never going to love anybody like I love them. It's impossible. We were soulmates.
Totally.
And yet, here we are, getting through it and meeting other great people who can match you where you are in your life and what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just cut them off. If you have to block them, do it. Because again, keep in mind, you got to tell yourself, I'm not doing this to get a reaction from him. I don't care what he thinks. And yeah, so you shouldn't let him know. If you want to block him or mute him, all the little things you can do to stop yourself from being triggered by seeing his Instagram post or social media, or just don't look. And just as time goes on, you'll care less and less. But it's gonna take some time. So take it easy on yourself. And when you have those moments of weakness, thinking, oh, it'd be so nice to just know that if you do that, it's like falling off the wagon, so to speak. You'll have a bit of a hangover after you get that instant gratification.
Yeah. No, I think I already felt that way too after seeing him again. It was like, why'd I do that?
Yeah. So just remember that, because a lot of people in your shoes, and if you're like anything like Chloe and me, like we've given that feeling many times and experienced it hangover many times, and it took a long time to learn. So just do yourself a favor and try to learn faster than we did.
Don't wait till you're old.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I'll try.
All right. Well, take care. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
And
Happy
just
holidays.
try to enjoy your family during the holidays. I wish I had stop wishing what you have. Like, try to enjoy the people you have in your life now, and try to enjoy the freedoms of being single. I know that sounds cliche, but there's a lot of truth. A lot of truth to it. You don't do yourself any good by feeling bad for yourself. I'm guessing there's a lot of things to be excited about where you are in your life and all the things you have going for you. And I think you should try to literally make a list about those things, focus on that, and just have the surround yourself with the friends who really gas you up right now, who really make you feel good about yourself. Those are the people who you should prioritize right now.
Yeah.
And anyone else who's not doing that, just take a time out from those people.
Yeah.
Don't
agree.
be hard on yourself. Be nice to yourself.
I'll try. Thank you.
All right. Well, take care.
Thanks. Have a good one.
You too. Chloe, it's been so much fun.
Yeah, it has. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Can you let my audience know any other things you're working on, or if you want them to follow you?
Very on topic. The last few years, I've taken a mental health break from, as you know, I used to be in the entertainment industry myself as an actress, and I've taken a few years off to figure out who I am and what I'm about and what I believe in and what my message is. And I think I'm going to dip my toe back in starting next year. I think I'm going to get back into acting.
Amazing.
So you may see me somewhere.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I hope to see more of you than I have in the past.
Likewise.
It was so nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
So much
and
fun
hopefully
talking to you.
Sid will still be around.
It was a pleasure having Sid. And thank you for all your fun and great insights on the Royals. It was great.
Such a tricky situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
But again, it's just real people. It's just
real people.
It's human beings going through human shit.
Yeah, and it's tricky because people very much care. I'm very fascinated just how people of all sorts of different people have found a way to connect in a bizarre way to this royal family and relate to them.
Because just deep down, they're just like you and me.
Just people. It's fascinating.
I see.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to send in those questions at asknick@castmedia.com. Cast with a K. All right, well, we're back on Monday for your Ask Nick, and then don't forget we have our special update episode for you next Wednesday. Those are the only 2 episodes we're having next week in the holiday, that crazy week, that week between
the no man's land.
No man land. So
when you don't know who you are and what you're doing.
We don't know what's going on.
Don't know the date.
Just
don't
know
what
that
day
we're
of the
here
week
for
it is.
you. 2 episodes, Ask Nick, and our update episode on Wednesday. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone out there, and we will see you back on Monday. Hey guys, thanks for watching, but before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos like our Monday's Ask Nick for your favorite relationship stories and advice, and our Tuesday Bachelor recaps. See you next time.